Hey guys, welcome to my YouTube channel. If you're new here, it's 𝗙𝗶𝗀𝗀𝗄. Thank you for coming. In today's video, I will be addressing some of the things that I think need to be talked about or I'm seeing as a pattern and it needs to stop. I don't know about you, but I feel it's in my head over time and I want to get it out like so bad. So I just want to talk about some of the creations that are made as a fantasy in the Western world, but I want to interpret them as an indigenous person of the African continent, as a Ugandan. It is otherwise to me. I see it in a different lens. Let me talk about Black Panther and the Avatar. When I watched the movie Avatar, I was so much invested in the storyline because to me it wasn't like a fantasy. I did not see the Avatar as the fantasy that maybe other people could have seen it. Here's why. You look at the story of the Avatar, there are these indigenous people in a specific place or area or planet as it is in the storyline. They had their culture, they had their way of believing, they had their dress code, they had their love, they had everything and the way they were doing stuff. And then you have another group of people that came from wherever they came from and came to this place, and then they were trying to get in that society. And you look at the storyline and it just also bothers me that they make it seem like when other people come from wherever they come from, it has to be like they need to get in a relationship and it's through relationship of a man and a woman or whatever, so that the other group can be convincing to their people to let these people in. That is the storyline, the same way that I will go to Black Panther. And me as a Ugandan, when I see the storyline, I go back and look at me as in my history about being African. I see that when we study in school, you learn that we had our culture, we had our way of living, we had all these things of us, but then our people back then welcomed people from different places, and you see that the people that they invited actually came in, changed everything almost about them, and they made things about them. And so the people who were there, who owned everything, were literally kicked out from their place. Do you understand where I'm going? And so me looking at the Avatar, where these people had all the things that they had given to them, and this group of people, they killed and destroyed almost everything they had, and the natives had to transfer to other lands. And you call that a fantasy? It doesn't make sense. It does not make sense to me. That's why me watching the Avatar, I was so invested, got hurt. Every time I try to watch the Avatar, I cry literally because it touches me. They had their own way, but it was taken. And then let's go to Black Panther. Watching that movie is not even about because there was a black cast in it, but because of the storyline and how you see how things happened. Because in our countries, in Uganda, we have kingdoms, we have tribes. We don't do this thing of color or whatsoever. For us, we are the same. We just know ourselves by tribes. We know our kings from different regions. So watching Black Panther, it was so connecting to me as an African child. But then I feel like people in the West, I am not trying to be disrespectful, but I feel like people in the West see my continent, our countries in Africa, as a fantasy. When you watch Black Panther, it kind of relates like these people in the West are making a fantasy of Wakanda that resembles my continent, and you're relating to us as a fantasy. It doesn't make sense to me. It's just so annoying and it's frustrating, and I just can't put my head around it. It's the same way when you watch the Avatar. So it looks like we are not seen as a place with living organs. We are seen as a fantasy. I don't know if it makes sense. I don't know if Africans can relate with me or people in diaspora can relate with me. I don't know if I'm just overthinking things, but it just doesn't make sense. Our people are loving and very inviting. We accepted people to come in, but in return, they made a fool of us and made us relocate to other places and took what we owned. So I don't know. I'm just sick and tired of seeing the Western world make movies out of things that relate to us as a fantasy when we are actually living in that reality. Like, it's not like a fantasy where it is mermaid, Cinderella, or like these other fantasies. This is real life for us. We live like that. We experienced that. We experienced that. We are not a fantasy, guys. It's not to sound rude, but it is what it is. It's just not good. It's not good to look at. And yes, I'm so excited to see the Black Panther, the next part of it. But it's just, I just see it in a different perspective. To me, I don't see it as a fantasy. I see it as reality, because the stories in Black Panther relate to me as an African child. They relate to me as an indigenous African child. Do you understand what I mean? It's just, it's really annoying and pissing at the same time. We are definitely not a fantasy. We are living people in those fantasies that you create for yourselves as fun, and you make it like Wakanda is nothing. To me as an African, I see that as an African place because of the stories that are involved in it. Make it make sense. Make it make sense, guys. Yeah, that was it for today. Comment below, tell me if I'm losing it or I'm overthinking a lot of things. But yeah, those are the things that I am really tired of seeing. And yeah, I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.